pours love into the family. He pours love into the home, so his love can overflow into the world. I want to spend my life mending broken people. I want to spend my life removing pain. Lord, let my words heal a heart that hurts. I want to spend my life mending broken people, so his love can overflow into the world.
God bless you and welcome back to Three Angels Broadcasting Network. And as always, we're just so happy you could take time out of your busy day to spend some time with us here at 3ABN. Someone once said, whatever you do today, do it better tomorrow. And I have to say that our special guest today does that over and over and over again. The Lord has given her a very special ministry that's entitled Taste of Health Ministries. You've guessed it, Barbara Kerr is here. She's got some brand new recipes to share with us today. The Lord has given her a marvelous gift of developing recipes that are good and good for you. So once again, as always, we'd like to invite you to get your paper and get your pen and get ready to write down some great recipes. And if you're not able to write them down, please call us at 1-800-752-3226, and we will be happy to send those recipes right out to you. Barbara has developed a Romanian meal, and I have to say this is gourmet because some of these words are pretty hard to say. But here's the menu for today. Supă de legume with walnut balls. I'm sure my accent is not correct. Field peppers, mushroom stuffed tomatoes, eggplant zakuska, cauliflower spread, and cinnamon milk noodles. I know that Barbara has some close friends from Romania that have probably helped her develop these dishes, so I know that you are going to be blessed to serve up Romanian to your family and to your friends. So please stay with us. Well, you've heard that confession is good for the soul but hard on the reputation. Well, I'm going to do what's good for my soul today, and I'm going to confess. When I was in my teen years, I prayed that the Lord would show me truth and that He would show me how He wanted me to live. And I have to say, never pray that prayer unless you really mean it, because God always answers a prayer like that. But when I was in my 20s, He really started answering that prayer and showing me new truths and how He wanted me to live big time. And when I first heard about the health message and read about it for myself in the Bible, how God spelled out the original diet for man in the book of Genesis, I knew that this was the truth. But I guess I just didn't realize how stubborn my own heart was, because I said to myself, I've been brought up eating meat. I like it. It's the only thing I know how to cook. It's the only thing my family will eat, and I'll never give it up. I have to confess, I really said that. But I continued learning and growing in the Lord, and just out of so-called curiosity, I decided I would try a few vegetarian recipes. And at first, it was disastrous. I can remember making a carrot loaf that very much resembled a brick, and it tasted like one too. But pretty soon I found some recipes that I liked, and I would make them from time to time, and then I tried more recipes, and then I tried more and more and more, and without even realizing it, over the course of about a year and a half, the veggie recipes increased and the meat recipes decreased. And all these changes were corresponding with me learning and drawing closer to Jesus. But pretty soon, I reached the point where a steak really looked like a muscle on a plate, which was totally repulsive to me. And I know that it was God that completely took the desire away from me. And even though my words were saying, I'm not going to be a vegetarian, my prayers were saying, Lord, I want to follow you all the way. Teach me more truth. And I have to say that my prayers really overrode my words. And my words were really just a reflection of being stuck in a rut and something that had been my routine all of my life. And I have to say that the health benefits that I received as a result of becoming a vegetarian were absolutely incredible. When I was a meat eater, I was sick all the time with colds and flu and bronchitis every change of season. And I had sinus problems and sinus infections all the time. I was allergic to everything. But when I became a vegetarian, all those things were gone. And they've stayed gone for almost 20 years. So as a result, I never said, where's the beef again? So this is what I've learned. In Job chapter 36, verse 10, God says, He opens also their ear or their listening to discipline. In other words, God can make our hearts hear even what our conscious mind is missing. And I really believe that's what happened to me. In my case, I really wanted more truth. I wanted more of God, and I was learning and growing daily as I prayed and as I studied the Bible. And all the while that this was happening, God was changing my taste buds to be like His. You know, we really can't in our own strength turn away from the desires of our carnal nature, but God can do it big time. And the beautiful thing about God is that He doesn't overwhelm us and correct everything overnight, but He patiently changes us one day at a time, and that's what He's doing with you, and that's what He's doing with me. I have to say I've still got a long way to go, but I know that as I keep seeking to follow Jesus and seeking to know more of what He wants to teach me, that He will make me into just the person that He wants me to be. You know, someone once said, and this is one of my favorite sayings, Jesus accepts us just the way we are, but He loves us too much to leave us that way. And we can praise God for that today. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father, in Jesus' name, we just come before you, praising your name and thanking you, Lord, that you are a God who loves us enough to change us. Lord, I just pray that we will open our hearts more and more to your Spirit to come in and change us, because we realize, Lord, that you only want our ultimate happiness. You only want to fill our life with good things. So I pray, Lord, for that brother, that sister that's watching this program today. I pray, Father, that you will help them to open their hearts in a bigger and bigger and better way so that you can come in and make some marvelous changes. Lord, I pray that for myself, for those of us here at 3ABN. Lord, it's just our prayer that you will increase and that we ourselves will decrease. And we praise you, Lord, that you're changing us even now. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. Well, at this time, we are going to be blessed with a very special song that will be sung by Sherry Zeismer, and it's entitled, I Am Thine, O Lord. So come on into our living room and listen as Sherry sings.
But I long to rise in the arms precious bleeding
Welcome back to the 3ABN Kitchen, and I have to say you've come to the right place because she's here today. Barbara Kerr, we welcome back.
That was sweet of you.
I tell you, you have got quite a menu here today. I was really struggling through some of these titles.
I'm sorry. I thought, you know, when she was going over it, I really should have told you what, you know. You did great. You pronounced them very well. So,
okay.
Especially the zakuska. You did really good on that. So, these are Romanian shows and recipes. You know how I love ethnic food.
Yes.
And I just think that it's so much more interesting sometimes than the same old American recipes that I get used to making, and I just love to experiment and to, you know, come up with
Plus,
new
you've
things.
got some Romanian friends.
I do, and my girlfriend Monica Lupu, who helped me as my translator in Romania when I went over a couple years ago, she came for a visit to the States. And it was truly a miracle how God worked that out. And just this program is kind of in honor of her and the food that they have in their country. And I just love it. I really like it because it's using root vegetables and a lot of things that are just fresh from your garden, not a lot of the other fussy things, you know. And so it's fun. It's fun. The soup and some things are more challenging because for me it's a different way of cooking. But I'll tell you what, the taste is, it really
Great.
pays off. It's great. It's really good.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I have to tell you that my husband gave me specific instructions to bring the zakuska home. But I told him I was
it
going
might be
to
all
share.
gone, Bill.
So I thought that was pretty good. You know, when he says to serve something at every meal, I think that's probably a good sign. So, but I can tell his taste buds are changing because he's liking the natural foods better and better all of the time. But
All right, well, let's get started.
okay, now this first recipe that we're going to do is called Supa de Legume, and it has walnut balls in it. We're going to read those ingredients for you now. For the soup, you're going to need 10 cups of water, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 small onions chopped, 2 medium carrots peeled and shredded, 2 1-pound potatoes peeled and diced small, 2 cups of tomatoes skinned and diced, 2 tablespoons of Bill's Baste or any vegetable broth seasoning, 2 teaspoons salt or to taste, and 2 tablespoons fresh minced parsley. For the walnut balls, you'll need 1 1/8 cups of water, 1 cup onion chopped fine, 4 tablespoons Lundberg short grain brown rice, and 1/8 teaspoon of salt. You will also need 3 tablespoons of minced walnuts, a 1/4 cup whole wheat pastry flour, and a 1/4 cup of Pepperidge Farm cornbread stuffing or breadcrumbs. A 1/2 teaspoon of salt and the juice of 1 lemon. Now this recipe, Linda, is actually one of Monica's, and I've just reworked them to, you know, a lot of times their recipes will say put in potatoes and not give you amount. So I had to do, you know, a few things like that to make it so that we could use it.
So we could
here.
make it too.
That's right, and reproduce it. And then she helped me. As a matter of fact, she had written them out for me and had to go back to Romania before we had cooked all of them. So we did some very expensive over-the-phone consulting. But that's okay. So we have 10 cups of water here, and I'm going to let you go ahead and just put the ingredients in for the soup. They're all up here for you. You need your potatoes. We have 2 1-pound potatoes. I don't know if you need, I'll give you one of these just in case. And let's start here. 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Now this may seem strange for soup, and I really wasn't sure about putting the oil in, but I'll tell you, after it simmers with the vegetables, it gives it a nice touch. 2 medium carrots peeled and shredded.
This soup is going to have a lot of color.
Oh, and it's so yummy. And you need 2 tomatoes, 2 cups of tomatoes, and you just peel the skins off. And I actually used my veggie peeler and just went around in a circle, and it was very easy to do that. And you need 2 small onions. This is an easy few, the 2 kind of recipe, and this is going to be full. That's okay. 2 tablespoons of Bill's Baste. This is not the Bill's Best Chickenish. This is another seasoning they have called Bill's Baste. And if you don't have this, you can use any kind of vegetable broth seasoning. Nor I'm not particularly crazy about it because it has MSG in it, but you can find some at the health food store. Just know that when you use a different seasoning, you may have to adjust the salt because different seasonings have different amounts of salt in them. And do we have salt that goes in there? 2 teaspoons of salt. I guess we don't. Well, we'll put that in later. So that's our soup. Now what you do is bring this to a boil, and you want it to boil until the potatoes begin to fall apart. And if you can't wait that long, boil them until they're really soft, and then just mash a little bit, or like I'll take a couple cups out and process it in the food processor and add it back. Now the neat part are these walnut balls that go in here. We're going to make this out of, in a saucepan, you put 1 1/8 cups of water, a cup of onion that you've chopped really fine, 4 tablespoons of the Lundberg short grain brown rice, and 1/8 teaspoon of salt. Put a lid on that, and I have learned today that cooking on gas versus electric, or I should say electric versus gas, is different. So if you wonder sometimes why your recipes don't turn out if you have an electric stove, it really makes it different. I needed more water cooking on electric today than I do on gas. I don't know if it's because of the heat distribution or I don't know what it was, but so just if it starts to go too low, just add a little bit extra water and watch it so it doesn't burn. But you want it so that the mixture is soggy, but you don't really want a lot of juice hanging out here. Okay, now what you're going to do is mix in our 3 tablespoons of minced walnuts and our flour, and just stir these into a paste. And the flour kind of forms a gluten and makes the meatball stick together. I just want to. Have you been to Romania, Linda?
Yes, I have.
Where were you at? Bucharest?
Well, we actually flew into Bucharest, but then we traveled, a couple hours around the countryside. It's a beautiful, beautiful country. I do know the living conditions are quite different than what we have here in America, and they don't have the products that we have available in the stores, and they literally have to live off the land, basically.
When I did a cooking school there 2 years ago, it was a challenge coming up with the recipes, and I really didn't even figure out what I was going to do until I actually got there because I didn't know what I would have for ingredients. So we did basic things like potato soup and some things like that. And I taught them how to make soy milk out of soybeans and tofu because I can get soybeans. I was like, thank you, God. Because there are only so many things you can do, especially if you're trying to go vegetarian. And most of Romania, I'd have to say, are heavy meat eaters. And so if you are vegetarian, it's very difficult to not consume even dairy products like the cheese that's being made and things like that. So this is how much salt do we have there? 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and we have a 1/4 cup of cornbread stuffed in cubes. You can just use breadcrumbs, whatever you have available. And it should be dry.
I don't think I've ever had meatballs in soup before. This is something new.
Now, is that dry enough? I should have brought down some extra flour because it looks a little bit wet. And this was the other thing that I learned this morning, that on these, if it's not quite dry enough to roll them into a ball, you might want to just add another teaspoon or 2 of flour. And this is going to vary due to how well the pan fits on your lid where you're cooking the rice and all those things. So just know that you may need to tweak that a little bit. Now, I have a finished pot of soup here, and you know how they say confession's good for the soul? I heard you say this not too long ago. I have a confession to make.
What's that?
Well, I did something this morning that I've never done before, and it had to do with this soup. I had been cooking and it has oil on the top. And I'd actually cooked the original one in this small pot. So as it was steaming, just a little bit so the oil was coming out and running down under the burners. Guess what?
You started a fire?
I started a fire here at 3 a.m. And you know, the thing was...
the building's still here.
The building's still here. God is so good. I'll tell you, well, this pan wasn't on there, but the drippings from underneath, and this is really a good safety thing that people need to know, that I learned in a valuable way today, is that oil that collects down in the pan really needs to be cleaned out right away, because if you turn it on high, it can start to smoke and light a fire. But the thing that I learned about myself during this crisis, as it the flames began, the soup was sitting over here, this finished soup, and I saw the flames come up, and luckily there's a fire extinguisher right next to the stove, and so I grabbed it and pulled the pin, and I held the hose like I was going to shoot it, and I saw my soup, and this is the scary thing I learned about myself. I put my soup before the safety. I said, stop, wait. I grabbed the soup and took it, and you know, in that few seconds, the flames went way down and it burned out.
Next time, put your safety first.
Yes,
the soup
so
second.
I thought, I can't squirt all that stuff in my soup, so it worked out just fine. There's no damage, and I just thought, you know, I should confess that to you.
You know, that's a good thing. I actually had a kitchen fire once. My daughter had poured a little bit of oil in a pan, and it got too hot, and it just poofed into a flame, and I was amazed at how high those flames were.
Right, it can shoot way up there.
Literally, it seemed like about 10 seconds, and the whole kitchen was filled with smoke to where you could not see. And but anyway, other than cleaning all the walls and the ceilings and having to repaint, you know.
Oh no. That was some kitchen fire. Did you have a fire extinguisher nearby, or how'd you put it out?
No. Well, my husband came running in, and he did something. It was such a blur, and then we just opened all the doors and windows, and I'm glad.
That can be scary, but I'll tell you what, have a fire extinguisher on hand in your kitchen, because I don't have one in my kitchen at home, and I think that, you know, and you should test them to make sure that they work.
I've got one now, though.
I bet Danny ran right out and got you one.
Yes, he did.
So the meatballs, I'm going to show you how we make one, but you just use a 1 tablespoon scoop, and then you can wet your hands. They're going to be soft like this, and then after your soup is totally boiled, you're just going to drop them into your,
so it's
wait, I did that wrong.
So it's kind of like a dumpling, huh?
Right. I did that wrong, though. Let me show you the right way. You roll it into a ball, and then you have the juice of 1 lemon, and the lemon juice that you roll it in kind of keeps the ball from falling apart in the soup, and then you drop it in. So
now that's a secret.
That is a Romanian secret, and I was really scared about I was afraid those walnut balls were going to fall apart, and Monica assured me, roll it in the lemon, it'll be fine, they won't fall apart, and they didn't. As a matter of fact, I'll show you, I have them in here, and they kind of poof up. You want to boil them for about 20 minutes, okay? And
now this proves that you don't need an egg to hold a meatball together.
The flour is the secret, but I take it one step further, Linda, because and the people that taste tested for me agreed, that was my husband and sister, that they're a little bit too doughy, so I take them out and I pan fry them for a minute. So we're just going to turn this on high, and you get to help me. Let's move this. Actually, can we put this on a back counter? Sure. I have a pot holder right over there, and that way we've got more room to work.
Well, I wish that our viewers could smell this awesome smell.
Doesn't it smell good?
It's really good.
Okay, now one by one, you can just use that spoon if you want. Try and find our meatballs in the soup, and then you can just put them in our frying pan, and we will just saute them. Okay.
Okay.
And then I just brown them on each. You know, put them in there with the lid, and
so you're going to brown them and then put them back into the soup.
I brown them till they look like they're getting crispy, and then I just put them right back in the soup, and they're perfect. And I've got to say, this soup recipe is a winner. Nathan doesn't like it because he's not a soup person, but Bill and I thought it was fabulous.
Oh, well, I tell
He's
you, it
pretty
looks
sure
good.
that I can cook Romanian any time that I want to. I guess I could get that out of your way.
Well, I hope Bill comes back. He did a program with us once, and we really got a great response to that Father's Day cooking program, and I hope he comes back and does another one.
Well, you know, a gentleman called the house after that show aired, and he wanted to talk to Bill. And they said, well, is there a question I can answer for you? He goes, no, I want to talk to your husband. So he wouldn't even ask me. It was something, I guess, about the barbecue grill. And I'd already confessed how I really didn't have too much knowledge with the grill, although I'm getting better now. Let's see if I can find a lid for that.
Now, could you just serve the soup just as it is?
Yes, you don't have to take it to the meatball stage.
Well, I mean, could you just serve it with the meatballs as they are, or are they not done on the inside?
Well,
or?
you can save one out and try it. I think they're a little bit too doughy. I mean, I just like a meatball that it just has a little bit of, they look pretty, but they just seem a little bit too doughy.
I love those splatter screens that you can put over.
I need one of those right now.
Well, I think I captured every one of them.
Okay, that looks good. Now, if you could find, I think on the back counter, that big lid that's in the drain board, and then we'll just put that on as our splatter guard. This one's saving me right now. Okay. And that way, you can just take it and after they brown on a side, then you can just flip it to the other side, which works out great. So that is basically our soup recipe, and it is delicious. Now, the next recipe that we're going to do is our field peppers, and this is what they call stuffed peppers. And those ingredients, would you read them, Linda?
Sure. You will need 6 medium green peppers, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 1 large onion chopped, 2 stalks of celery cut small, 2 large carrots peeled and chopped, 1 cup of cooked brown rice, 1 teaspoon of salt, 6 tablespoons of cornbread stuffing or seasoned breadcrumbs. And for the sauce, you will need 1 1/2 cups of fresh tomato puree, 1/8 of a cup fresh minced parsley, dill, or basil, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Then for the rice, you will need 2 cups of water, 1/2 cup of Lundberg short grain brown rice, and 1/2 teaspoon salt.
Now, the first time I actually had a field pepper, Linda, was at my home in High Point when the Mega Book program was coming and they needed someone to cook for them. And there were several Romanian students there, and it was headed up by Raluca Ancu, who you've had here to 3ABN, and who is a good friend of mine now and responsible for me going over to Romania. So they decided to cook a Romanian meal for me, and they made field peppers. And it's basically a stuffed pepper that's stuffed with vegetables instead of hamburger and rice. And so that's what we're going to do for you now.
All right.
And to get started, we need to put our olive oil in this pan that we have that's hot. I know we kind of have a reach there. And I'll give you and then go ahead and put our onion in.
It looks a little dangerous.
I don't know what it is with that. It's too sweet. Okay. I'll protect you.
All right.
Okay. And I'll that's 1 large onion, 2 stalks of celery, 2 large carrots, and I've actually processed this in my food processor, and 1 cup of cooked brown rice, a teaspoon of salt, and we're going to hold off on the breadcrumbs. Go ahead and break that up.
Well, it looks like Romanians use a lot of rice.
You know, they don't have brown rice. They only have white rice available to them in their country, which I think is a pity because brown rice is so much healthier for you.
Sure.
But they do use rice in a lot of dishes. Now, what we're going to do in our other pan, we've got big pot of boiling water here, and we're just going to parboil our peppers. Now I've just taken and cut a thin slip off the top and then taken the membranes out, and we're just going to put them into our water here. And you just want to parboil these 3 minutes and then take them back out.
So basically just steam them a little.
Yeah, because we're cooking this filling basically on the stove, so it doesn't need to have a lot of time in the oven. I think we put it in about 30 minutes. We'll cover this back up and set our timer for 3 minutes and let that go. Now, you can brown the onion and the celery first if you want to have more of that caramelized flavor of the onions, and if you don't mind that look inside. You know, some people don't like dark onions, but I love the flavor. And then you can add the carrots and things like that. So we're going to have you make up the tomato puree for us now. And we've just cubed a couple tomatoes, and you're just going to puree them by themselves because we need 1.5 cups of that.
Okay.
Measure, see if you can measure out our, hopefully that's the right amount for you. I can give you the message on it. But you're very graceful in the kitchen, Linda.
Okay, I think that's about 1.5 cups right there.
Okay. Well, you know what, we just have a little bit, so go ahead and...
Oh,
we won't be too picky. No, we won't waste that. I thought maybe I was over by 1 cup or 1/2 cup. And we're just going to go ahead and stir in the parsley and the salt into that. I'll give you a little spoon for that. Get that all blended in. And now we want to put, after you get that stirred in, we're going to put, I believe it's 1/2 cup back into yes, 1/2 cup of our tomato sauce is going to go into our sauteed vegetables. Okay. I'll let you just eye that.
Yeah, one thing I remember when we were in Romania is they served sliced tomatoes and cucumbers at every meal, including breakfast.
Yes, we had that too. And that was our snack when we came home at 11 o'clock after we were done with a long day of preaching and teaching. And did you notice how salty, how freshly salted the cucumbers and tomatoes tasted? Because they use the mineral salt there that they just sprinkle on. I mean, it's so different than the iodized salt that we have here. So I just love that. You know, I have a picture of Monica that I wanted everyone to be able to see, because when she came over in September, it was really a miracle trip, and God worked it out that she could go with Claudia and I to Denver, Colorado. This is the picture that will now be on the back of her new book. This is Mark Finley and Teeny Finley, and she was so proud to have her picture taken with the Finleys. We were at Raluca's wedding in Denver, and so there were a bunch of Romanians there, and she was very surprised that she would get to speak Romanian here in our country. But the Finleys are almost like parents. They stepped in as Raluca's parents because they couldn't come from Romania to be there for her wedding. And then we drove from Denver onto 3ABN, and we taped some radio programs. And Monica told about her country and the food that they ate there, and she gave some recipes. And we did a few radio programs that air here on your station.
So she speaks English very well.
Very well. And she works as my translator whenever I go back. And as a matter of fact, I'm planning another trip back to Romania that I hope God will open the doors for. I've already gotten an invitation to do some speaking. I was just going to go over and visit her and then combine that with a little trip to Germany, because Bill gets to go there once a year. And so Nathan and I have been complaining profusely that we never get to go with him. And so he's going to take us, and I'm going to combine it with a trip to Romania. and do some more health teaching. And I already had an email before I even had made the arrangements. God provided another opportunity to be able to teach people. So we're going to go and do some more speaking. And it looks like Raluca may be going back at the same exact time. So God, his timing is perfect. And he's truly amazing. Okay, this is done now, and we're ready to, and also our peppers. I'm going to let you, they're going to be hot, Linda. I'll let you just fill the pepper.
Okay.
That'll work. And if you need another utensil, just let me know.
Now, does the
We're gonna
tomato sauce go on top?
Yes, we'll top each one with about 1/8 cup of the tomato sauce and a tablespoon of the breadcrumbs. And you can just fill them right up. Hopefully we've got, if your peppers are really big, you may only have enough filling for 5. These are nice sized.
Oh, I tell you, these are going to be so pretty.
Now, you know, I gotta say, I hated stuffed peppers as a kid.
Me too.
Green pepper just isn't, cooked green pepper isn't a flavor I think that children like. But as an adult, I think these are very tasty.
I think your taste buds change. And like I said at the beginning of the program, a lot of times the Lord is involved there. And he changed my taste buds for the better. Things that I used to hate, I now love.
And you know, I noticed that as you eat a healthier diet, what happens is that when you go and eat a food then that's bad for you, if you break down and have a bowl of ice cream or a candy bar or something like that, you feel the effects of it
You do?
immediately with a
That's
sore
true.
throat or just feeling just run down and awful. So this
Okay,
looks
so
nice.
we're
And then you
gonna-
can just top each one with about 1/8 of a cup. Give them a good old dollop.
Oh, these are beautiful.
And then you're going to bake these in the oven at 350 degrees for about 35 minutes. And the breadcrumbs will be browning on top. And the bread takes the place of cheese. So, which I thought really went with this recipe, but it also helps you get rid of the dairy. So that is it for our field peppers.
Great. What's next?
On to our next one is a mushroom stuffed tomatoes. And those ingredients are 6 small tomatoes cored, 4 cups portobello mushrooms cubed small, 2 tablespoons olive oil, 2 tablespoons water, and 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1/2 cup chopped fresh dill, and 1/4 cup of vegetables. Now this recipe, Linda, is nice. We're going to start with our olive oil and saute our mushroom. You can go ahead and put those in there. And you're just going to saute these until they start browning. Oh, and put our water, 2 tablespoons of water. Get that out of your way. This helps them to cook down faster. Go ahead and let you do that. Now what we're going to do is after these begin to brown, we're going to fill them in some tomatoes. Now if you don't have a small tomato like this that you can core, this is really good if you just slice a big tomato and just put a scoop on top of your tomato. You can just serve it on a tomato slice like that. And all you do to make the tomato is just cut a little. I don't have a cutting board, so. And I had an extra. Oh, can you hand me one of those little bowls
Sure.
that's empty? So I don't make a mess. And then you're just gonna, whoops,
Scoop it out.
scoop it out. And then you can cut around the edge to make it look a little bit prettier. They're kind of messy. I'm not making that look very easy.
But these look pretty.
Yeah, Gloria did that for me. Didn't she do a nice job? So, yes, and that's all there is. And you can take a paring knife around and straighten up the edge. Now, I lightly sprinkle these with salt before I fill them because a tomato raw by itself really needs a little salt. Otherwise, it draws a little bit too much out of the recipe. So, and for this, we did need a half a teaspoon of salt, but I think we have, would you look in our cupboard down there? I think we have some salt, and we'll just put that in. So we want it to be just perfect.
Just right.
Okay, I'll measure out a half a teaspoon.
This is how she really does it
No,
at home.
it's not. You ask my husband. I never do this. It has, and my mother and my sister laugh because, you know, I brought Mom and Sandy once to help me upstairs, and I'll never forget hearing Sandy walk into the kitchen saying, "Mom, I really think Barb wants you to level off the spoons." So, because, you know, Mom is just sort of, you know, winging it, and she's a wonderful cook. But I didn't know that my sister could do that, and so it just totally caught me by surprise. But we joke about that now. So, okay. Once this gets soft, then we're just going to...
But actually, you know, when you just wing it, it seems like that's when the most wonderful recipes are created, but you can never go back the second time and make it again.
Yes, that's my husband's problem, and that's what I keep trying to tell him. You'll make this wonderful dish, honey, but you can't repeat it for me exactly the same. So he's, you know, he's becoming more like me, and I'm becoming more like him. I told him we just keep getting better with time. So, okay. Now, normally you just let this cook on high so it's a little bit drier, but we're going to go ahead and mix in our vegetables and our dill. And I think we can do that right in the pan.
Okay, what is Vegenaise for our viewers unfamiliar with that?
Vegenaise is a new mayonnaise that is non-dairy, that is the best tasting mayonnaise,
It's
in
better
my
th-
opinion.
Better than the real thing.
Better than the real thing on the market. I was a real mayonnaise person before, and when I tasted Vegenaise, I was so happy with the flavor. This should be a thick paste, but I haven't simmered out the moisture from the mushrooms, just so you know it shouldn't be that watery. And do we have a spoon?
I
I think we've run out of spoons. Okay. They're over on this side, Linda. In that cupboard right there.
You know, I should know that by now, shouldn't I?
It's okay. I actually think that their positioning has changed over time. But you're just going to fill them. Okay. Whoops. Ooh, and it's hot. And stuff them right up to the top.
You know, the fresh herbs are so much better than the dried herbs in the jar.
You can give me dill or basil any day of the week in just about anything. I just love it that much.
It's very good.
Now you could, well, I think parsley would be a little too strong in this recipe. They use a lot of parsley in their cooking. So Monica told me that her and her mother are already working on plans for what they're going to cook while I'm there, and I'm really excited to meet her family again, see her mother. Her mother actually crochets doilies that are about this big, hand crochets little doilies to give to people that have given donations to help support Monica's books. So what I didn't share with you, or maybe I did tell you, that when I was there, she was working on the Uncle Arthur bedtime story books, and she had just translated the first volume into Romanian. They have no children's stories in Romania, and so God had opened doors. When she and I met, I told her that I would go back to the States and try and get print permission from her, and I actually have that book that came from that first trip.
Oh, that
and
is
it's just
wonderful.
This is the
And
first.
this is all translated in Romanian.
It is, and there's even pictures in here. Let's see if I can. She was, I think she put 17 pictures in this first book, in Arthur Maxwell, and they're all in color. But you know, for the second book, 2 ladies from our church volunteered to take all the photographs for the second volume, and so they're all of people, the families acting out those same stories that everybody knows, taking pictures, and the book printing company was so proud that she came to the United States to promote the book that they agreed to put 50 pictures in for the same price as 17.
Wow.
And I mean, God just has opened amazing doors, and I mean, the devil works very hard. She's very persecuted there in Romania. I don't think she gets support from even her local church, which I think is very sad. But those kinds of things happen when you're a servant, as you know. You never know where persecution is going to come from, but God has continued to open doors, and it's a blessing.
Well, that's great.
Anyways,
Well, I think we're ready to
we're
go
ready
on to
for our next
one.
recipe. And we're going to make for you eggplant zakuska. And you're going to need 4 medium eggplant, 6 large red peppers, 1/3 cup of onion chopped, 2 teaspoons salt or to taste, 3 teaspoons milled cane sugar, 1/4 cup olive oil. Now this one, Linda, you need your barbecue grill for. And what I did was I actually grilled these at home. You can grill them on a gas flame, but it makes it a little too messy in your kitchen. But they need to have a flame that comes under them. And you're taking your red peppers, they're a little bit smushed now, but once they're charred on all sides, you're just going to take them after they cool, and then with your fingers peel them like this. You don't want to run them under running water because that takes too much of the flavor away. Then open up the center and remove the seeds from it. Okay, as much of this black as you can get off, and then you can use a paper towel and dip your fingers in water. Now the same with the eggplant. You can kind of see the size that I've used here. I hold them up after they've cooled and then just peel them like this. Now I realize this doesn't look very appealing.
It tastes better than it looks,
It
though, right?
tastes really good. But then I cut the top off and open that up. Well, let me do that. I'll just kind of show you the inside so people can see what I do. Oh, this one has brown seeds. Now, it should have white seeds on the inside. I don't think that the brown seed means that it's a good eggplant. But I'll take this and then just scrape out about half of the seeds out of the center. Not all of them, but I'll remove about half, okay? And then you want the rest of the innards, and that's what we have here in this bowl. And we're going to put that into the food processor. Now, this is my version of zakuska. Zakuska also has, let's see, you need the blade.
We're missing the blade.
You also need the, well, it calls for tomatoes in the original recipe, but I like just the red pepper and the eggplant flavor because tomato just tends to make everything taste like tomato. So you can see that with 4 eggplants, it really cooks down a lot. Now you don't want to cook it till the eggplant evaporates into nothing. You can just add the rest of those ingredients. That's 1/3 cup of onion chopped, 2 teaspoons of salt or to taste, and that's really going to depend on how much of your eggplant is left. That might be too much if you've evaporated it, or too little if your eggplant's real big. 3 teaspoons milled cane sugar, again the same thing, that gives it just the sweetness, and 1/4 cup of olive oil. And you want to process this until it's smooth. Actually, this time they didn't have red peppers at the store, so those were orange peppers, which changes the color just a little bit.
Kind of has a pumpkin look to it.
Yeah, it does, this one. But the other one has a redder, look. And we have
Let's
to
give her a try.
And a piece of toast.
I can tell why Bill is fighting for this.
I'm going to put this in a container, honey, and bring it home.
Well, this is definitely one that you want to share with some company, though.
Yes. It's tasty. I love this recipe.
Good recipe.
Well, we're going to actually skip our cauliflower recipe and go right into our cinnamon milk noodles. You'll need 5 cups water, 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1 1/2 cups pasta any style, 1 cup of vanilla silk soy milk, 3/8 cup milled cane sugar, 1/2 teaspoon ground cinnamon, and 1/4 to 1/2 cup additional soy milk. Now, for this recipe, Linda, I've gone ahead and I've actually boiled our pasta partially. You're going to cook it for 5 minutes in water. I've used one that's in the shape of rice. I think it's called orzo or something like that. And from this point, after 5 minutes, we're going to add our silk milk, which is 1 cup, and cook it for an additional probably 3 minutes. And you want it to, you need to bring it to a boil, and this actually puts the flavor then of the milk into the noodles themselves. And this is like a poor person's dessert, but it tastes so good, very custard-like.
You know, it has the look of a rice pudding.
it has a taste like that too. This is 3/8 of a cup, which is a quarter plus a half. A milled cane sugar. I had to think about that for a second because there is no 3/8 cup measuring cup, and a half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Now, after this cooks and comes back to a boil, I like to put it in a bowl, because what will happen is the pasta will dry out as it absorbs that. And when you store this in the refrigerator, you'll come back and it will be dry. Just add a little more silk milk to it, or maybe a little sprinkling of the milled cane sugar, and then I warm it up and eat it that way. It's delicious.
Oh, it looks wonderful. You know, I've got just the thing that we can put it in.
Linda always has just the thing in the kitchen.
Oh,
She
yes.
loves.
Here's just the thing.
Oh, those are perfect. You're right. So we'll let this cook down. Bring this back to a boil. And
Well, while we're waiting for that to heat up, let's show the pictures from your cookbook.
okay.
And maybe you can tell us really what you had to go through to capture these pictures and to put this cookbook together.
Well, I'll tell you, it was a lot of work, but very rewarding. As a matter of fact, I actually did the parfait that's on the cover. I'm very proud of that, because I did hire food stylists that came down to help me. But all the food is cooked. We did it ourselves. This is one of our garden harvest meals. Very delicious. This is a chilled raspberry and peach soup in the soup section. And a 4th of July with a great garden burger there that we've made. It's delicious. Very colorful.
Yes. If you would like more information about the cookbook and any other product that Barbara might have available, or if you would like her to come and visit your church, do a cooking demonstration, you can contact her at Taste of Health Ministries, P.O. Box 38, Gaston, South Carolina, 29053. And the phone number is 803-936-1714. And there's her website right there as well.
And you can actually get an order form off of the website for the cookbook if people are interested in that. And send it off to me.
All right. Well, are we ready to serve it
I
up?
think that we are. Now, this is boiled, which will give the flavor into that. And I think because it's still moist, we won't need the extra soy milk.
Yeah, this is a very different type of dessert, too.
Yes, and
But you said this is one of your favorites now. So if it's one of your favorites, I know I'm
it
going to
is
like
one
it
of my
too.
favorites. Kind of made a mess there, but
Well, let's give it a try.
you need a little. You just need a little more of this, though.
Okay. Let's try
And it's
it.
hot, so very
That is
hot.
great.
Isn't it like rice pudding, like what my grandma used to make?
It is great.
And you can use macaroni, anything, any kind of pasta that you have at home, you can use in this.
Well, we would like to remind you, if you would like the recipes that we offered on today's program and you weren't able to write them down, just call us at 1-800-752-3226. Thank you, Barbara, for sharing your recipes. And until next time, may the Lord richly bless you abundantly more than you could ever ask or think.
Thank you for being our family.
Thank you for being our friends.
May God bless and keep you in all that you may do until we meet again.